Hi, everybody. Welcome to Life Stories Podcast, People Helping People. I'm Shara Goswick, your host. Today on the podcast, I chat with Alex Yaro, who started a company called ConflictYES. Alex realized this is something that he was good at when he was young, and now he is teaching college students and working with companies on how to deal with conflict. If you are a business owner or you work for a company where you think Alex might be of great help, I encourage you to listen to this conversation and then go to his website and check out what he does. I think it's great that he is able to do this well because I don't like conflict, but I'm glad there are people that know how to handle it. Thank you for being here.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi there. I'm sorry I'm late.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm I was away for a week and I'm just catching up on work and
I
just
gotcha. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. When you talk to people who do not like to deal with conflict, I would fall into that category. So I have
Okay.
lots to learn. So I know you have a company, ConflictYES.
Yep.
When did you realize that dealing with conflict was something that you were good at or that you wanted to do? Is that something you've always thought about? You've always been good at, or?
It's something that I had to get good at very quickly because when I came to the US, so that you know how you're picked to go play on teams and for sports and stuff like that in
Mm-hmm.
middle school. So because um, I'm kind of small and I didn't speak the language and I didn't know the rules, when playing touch football, I was made to be the guy who hands the football to the quarterback
Yeah.
and then yells one Mississippi, two Mississippi. So I didn't know why we were yelling the names of rivers when I came here. You can
Yeah.
imagine, right? I'm in New
Yeah.
York. Mississippi is far away, and
Right.
I was just completely clueless.
It doesn't make sense.
Right. But then it was worse because most of the time, by the time I'm done with like three Mississippi, he throws the ball and then the down's over and then
Right.
whatever, reset, whatever.
Yep.
Once in a while, there's no coverage,
Yeah.
right? He's blocked. So we get to seven Mississippi. And then what do I yell next?
Oh, I don't know.
I yelled eight Mississippi.
Oh, that's how much I know about football.
Oh, I figured from Texas, I figured you'd be, you didn't know all about that.
No, I don't. I know very little.
Well, I can tell you that seven Mississippi is as high as you go in
Oh,
football, because after that, you're supposed to rush the quarterback. You're allowed to now touch him, and that would be
gotcha.
the new down. I didn't know
Gotcha.
this.
Yeah.
So I'm yelling eight Mississippi, and they're yelling to me, rush him, rush him. And what do you think I hear?
Hurry up.
No, I hear Russian, Russian.
Oh.
That's where I'm from. So this game does not
Oh.
make sense to me.
Yes.
So the kids got mad,
Yeah.
and then the kids wanted to fight me.
Oh gosh.
And that is when I discovered my superpower of conflict resolution, because what I knew one more word in addition to Mississippi is tomorrow.
Yeah.
Fight tomorrow. And so I deferred my fighting over the course of my junior high school career.
Yeah.
And that got me thinking, oh, if I can do that with language, maybe there are other things I can do with language around that.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of like one of the origin stories of how I started.
Oh, wow. That's pretty smart. How old were you when you moved here?
10.
Oh, okay. So you were still very young.
Yeah.
So with your company, do you work with individuals? Do you work with other companies? What do you do exactly?
Yeah, I typically work with corporations and I
Okay.
do more coaching
Yeah.
and less mediation. But so how do I deliver a message? A
Yeah.
tough message. It's easy to deliver a good message, but how
Yeah.
do I deliver, right? It's a challenging feedback. How do I deal with a coworker who's blocking me? How do I deal with frustrating boss or frustrating
Yeah.
employee? So any of those kinds of things. And I also do corporate mediation work where somebody calls me in and says, my two valuable people are not getting along. Can you help me figure it out?
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I know in your video on your website, you said that that's what coaching is where you feel most comfortable.
Mhm.
What do you love about that?
I love the insights that I help
Yeah.
clients achieve. So I ask questions about what they want and how come the situation is the way it is. And I ask that in a kind of way, I mean, that's the skill, so that
Yeah.
they get to insight. And when they get it,
Yeah.
it's very exciting. I feel like I've, generated something new. I've done something.
Yeah. What do you think in all the people that you've worked with? And I'm sure there's lots of different answers to this, but what's a very common reason people want to avoid conflict?
They're scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a structure in our brain called the amygdala. It's our emotional smoke detector.
Mm-hmm.
And when that goes off, our instinct is to either fight or flee.
Yeah.
And that's what people operate on, and that's the feeling of being scared. And then they
Yeah.
make up stories about why the person is unreasonable, etc. But it's ultimately about that, the feeling of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I don't like conflict at
No one
all.
does, right? I don't like it either, by the way. What
Yeah.
in my life? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, what about when you're working with some people? Give us some examples about things that you do. Like if you're going into a company and this boss says, "I need you to help me with these two employees." What exactly do you do when you go in?
First, I make sure that I'm introduced properly so that the people understand why I'm speaking with them.
Yeah.
And then I have typically 2 long conversations with each employee. One conversation with each employee, so it's 2
Yeah.
conversations, right? And I ask them about, okay, tell me what's happening from your perspective. And almost always I get a ton of information because the person feels so pent up with frustration.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm usually the first person on the scene who's able to hear them, understand where they're coming from,
Yeah.
and I'd get their perspective of it.
Yeah.
And then I do that for the other person as well. And then from
Mhm.
that, I build a matrix in my head about what is going on. And often it's pretty evident. So there's
Yeah.
miscommunication, maybe sometimes different interests, a lack of getting the full picture. People only have part of the story. And so a lot of that. So very often, in fact, I've never had a situation where people's interests are actually opposed. And
Yeah.
so um, most of the time, it's just people's interests are very much aligned. Like I want to
Yeah.
get along with my boss. I want to have a great employee, get along with them well,
Right.
and so on, right? Well, I need direction. Well, I need specificity, etc. And so a lot of times it's that kind of level setting
Mm-hmm.
that isn't done. And I think that what I'm able to do is speak in a way that is not frightening to the people and is also precise so they behaviorally understand what they need to do for each other.
Yeah. We all want to be heard. We all want to be seen. So I know that's important for you to go in and to listen to what they're having to say. It's probably a relief to have somebody that, is genuinely interested. Have you ever had anybody get mad at you in dealing with conflict? Like they didn't agree with the way you were doing something? No?
No, no one, not mad at me. I think there are times when I found out that I was blamed for the
Yeah.
fact that the person didn't want to do
Right.
the mediating. And so
Yeah.
and so it was kind of like, well, we brought in a mediator and they did
Right.
nothing.
Yeah.
And but I'm not I'm not a fairy. I don't have magic
Right.
to help them to do it.
So you mentioned that you had just gotten back. Do you travel a lot with your company? Do you travel and go to different places and no?
Occasionally, mostly I travel
Okay.
via Zoom these days.
Yeah, me too. I've been all over the world.
Exactly. All right, I should tell you, sorry, I will tell
Okay.
you, I just came back from Necker Island. So in fact, it is
Oh,
legitimate. I legitimately traveled on a plane
yeah.
and
Yeah.
to a conference. So once in a while that does happen.
Okay.
Sorry,
Once in a while you
I
do.
just,
So yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm
sorry.
going to a conference in Dallas, so I'm
Okay.
not traveling very far, but I am excited about it.
Good, good, good.
Um,
Sorry, I didn't mean to
if
interrupt.
there's somebody listening who has a conversation they need to have with someone and they know it's not going to be easy, what are some tips that you can give? Like maybe it's with a family member and they need to have this difficult conversation. What are some tips you can give for them to be able to present it well and without being ugly or frustrated or, all our emotions get all
Yeah.
crazy?
Yeah, I think the first piece is to slow down your emotional thinking, to
Mm-hmm.
recognize that when your emotions are under attack, when they're sort of defensive, your amygdala is lit up, is not the time to speak at all,
Right.
and to quiet down and to have the thought, and it's an uncomfortable thought in the moment, that the other person is also a human being. They're also trying to do their very best, and they're not out to get us.
Yeah.
And that thought fights with our instinct of they are out to get us and we have to be defensive.
Right.
So that's the first piece of work that I recommend for anyone in conflict to do with themselves.
Yeah.
The second piece of work is to ask, what am I solving for? What is happening? How come I'm being blocked? So it's, do I want a raise? Do I want the employee to do this and they're doing that?
Yeah.
do I want a deal and that's not coming through, whatever. And really have a very clear sense of what is the problem that's
Yeah.
causing me the conflict. And it's not the other person who's being evil. It's that's something that I want typically.
Right.
Once you have those two, where the other person is legitimately a human being in your mind and you know what the problem is for you, then
Yeah.
you go to curiosity and you go to the person, you say, here's what happened to me. Here's why we have a conflict. What happened on your side? They have a story also, I promise.
Sure.
And then listen to that story with curiosity for new information. Maybe there's something you didn't
Yeah.
know. Maybe there's something you did you didn't realize you did. Maybe there's something you didn't do, but they think you did, whatever that
Yeah.
is. And the last one is give them choice. So give them the opportunity to figure out what they can do to help you.
Right.
So you would say something like, look, I want this. Here's what I would like. I would love for us to be able to work together where I say, I need you to do this. You go off and you do it. You come back and I say, thank you.
Yeah.
How would you like to get to that? As opposed to saying, you must therefore do this.
Right.
Don't try to control. So if you do those four things, the first two are before you speak with them, and the second two while you speak with them, most conflicts get resolved.
Why is it so hard for us to want to let the other person share their story because we feel like we're right? We don't.
That's exactly why.
Yeah.
And we want to be right. We want to have that
Right.
feeling of indignation. It is
Yes.
very tempting.
Yes.
I'm not immune to it, by the way.
We're toddlers sometimes.
We 100% are. I mean, we have the same brain, and so especially
Yeah.
when under threat, you bet we want to be proved right. We want someone to listen to us and agree with us. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know there's other things that you do besides just coaching. What else do you do with Conflict Yes?
So I teach. I teach that. I teach coaches and mediators around how to
Okay.
resolve conflict, and I teach it academically. And then I do the mediation work with people who are in trouble, who come to me and they say, "Hey, we need to figure stuff out."
Yeah. I hate conflict, but I love that there are people that are good at doing stuff like this. This is
Well,
so important. So are you teaching at a college?
yeah,
Awesome.
I teach at Baruch and John Jay in New York City.
Awesome. Do you enjoy that?
Very
You do.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great.
I love the kids. They keep me engaged. I learn a lot from
Yeah.
them
I
about
bet.
culture, right?
Yeah.
And I enjoy giving back. And so I like with my adult audiences where I typically have either a contract or maybe a day to teach someone something. With my students, I have 15 weeks. And so
Right.
I can challenge them to actually try different things and take risks. And then I see them develop, and it's very rewarding for me.
I bet. On your website, it says because you've lived a lot of different places and been in different cultures, that you understand the importance of tone and body language.
Mhm.
What can you tell me about that? How does that matter when you're having a conversation with someone?
Sometimes people are polite and they will say yes. They won't directly say no.
Yeah.
But if they don't mean it, and especially if it relates to conflict. So
Mm-hmm.
when I am working with someone and someone says something like, "Oh, that's interesting. I'll try that." They're not committed
Yeah.
to trying it, to doing it. So that's when I ask them, "Are you going to do it, or are you gonna, or there's something preventing you from doing it?" And so
Right.
they might say, "Well, come to think of it, I'm concerned about this," and then we can deal.
Yeah.
And I really have to listen to that for that tone to
Yeah.
be able to pick that up.
I totally agree with that. I know that that is something that I have been working with someone on because I used to have a problem with that, saying yes for something and then resenting the person because I said yes and I didn't really want to say yes. And it was a hard
Right.
lesson to learn. And
Right.
so I have a young woman that I've tried to help her with that because saying no is okay. It's okay to say no.
Yeah.
Took me 50 years to learn that, but
Yeah.
it's the truth.
It's and a lot of that I think happens as kids. We're parent pleasers typically,
Yes. Yes.
and so that's the way our brain is encoded. And I get that. Of course, it's helpful to say yes to someone. So in the moment they say, "Oh, thank you very much,"
Right.
but then you're on the hook for it, and that's what
Yes.
people don't do, and then it becomes problematic.
Yeah. Then you get resentful and you don't
Yeah.
want to have to do whatever you said you were going to do. So do you have any new plans for Conflict Yes? Anything coming up? Anything different you're changing or doing or?
Yes, I am writing a textbook
Oh,
this
wow.
year. for
That's
my
awesome.
students. Yeah. And I'm also putting together a new group coaching product that
Oh,
I'm
wow.
testing with my clients later this year.
That's great. What kind of resources do you have online right now for people? If somebody's interested in having you speak to their company or work with some people in their company, what kind of resources do you offer online?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I have videos of me speaking and mediating,
Yeah.
and I have some blogs, some thought leadership stuff that I wrote that people have access to, and then
Yeah.
they're free to kind of get in contact with me online, and
Mhm.
I'm happy to have a conversation with them.
That's awesome. Do you ever find when you're working with people, like you said, you talk to this person for a little bit and this person for a little bit? Do you ever find that they both think that they're absolutely right, that they do everything right, and they're
Always. And
always
I wouldn't say that they think they do everything right. They more likely don't know what they're doing wrong.
gotcha?
So
Yeah.
most people say that they're not perfect. You
Yeah.
know, they don't necessarily like the imperfection pointed out in the moment, like no one does.
Right.
But we allow that we're not perfect. What
Yeah.
most people want is direct feedback
Yes.
about what they could do differently because they'd be willing to do it.
Yeah.
And I find that a lot of people, one, they don't have the language to do it precisely. And then the other part is they express the kind of reservation. I'm afraid about hurting their feelings. So if I say something direct to them,
Right.
then, that's when my coaching question comes in. I say, then what?
Yeah.
And that's when they pause. And so they have this notion that something bad will happen. But as they think
Mhm.
through, turns out, no, it actually won't. If they say things effectively, which is precisely.
Right. That's good to think about.
Formula is I noticed this. And by
Uh,
noticed, it means this is what I saw, this is what I heard, or this is what I read, as opposed to this is what
uh,
you did. So I noticed that.
huh. Yeah.
And then that had made me feel, and then you have to say a feeling, frustrated, upset, annoyed, confused, whatever that feeling is.
Right.
And then that's sort of those are the first two pieces. And then the question might be, and what happened on your end? Like, how come it worked out the way it did? And that
Yeah.
person usually has a reason. They were going on some assumptions. They didn't know. Most people are well-meaning.
Right.
Once you figure that stuff out, then the next piece is, hey, so next time maybe let me know ahead of time, or ask me if there's something that you need. Like I didn't know you didn't do this information,
Right.
and that is typically how most of these discussions resolve well.
Yeah. You're just probably like the hero in all these places that you go and work all this stuff out. They probably think you're like the hero.
Well, that's part of the joys of the job is
Yeah.
when these things really and they really bother people when I can help them get through it and get to a place
Yeah.
of clearing where they're clear with each other, and their relationship is more sort of better defined by that experience. They went through conflict.
Yeah.
That's very gratifying. I enjoy my
I
work.
bet. Yeah. I love that. So people wanted to get in touch with you. They just go to your website. Did they need to have like a quick call with you, or do you just they can set up a time to have a consultation, or how does that work?
They can set up a time. Typically, they send me a message, and then I'll send them a link to book a time, and and it would be helpful if the message had a little context about what they need,
Sure.
what they're looking for. Yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
happy to meet with them and chat.
Awesome. Well, I love this. I've learned a lot. I hope that we can point some people in your direction, and I'm sure people will learn from the tips that you gave me on. I'm going to think about this the next time I have to do this. I don't like it, but it's possible.
That
It's
absolutely
possible
it
to
is.
handle it well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And if you need any help, just give me a call. I'll
I will
have a
do
chat with
that.
you.
I will do that. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Shara.
All
Great to
righty.
talk to you.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Be well.